What's up? Welcome to Models and Agents, episode 81 for June 15th, 2026. Your daily AI briefing. Monday in the AI world, which means a weekend's worth of announcements to catch up on. Let's go. Z.ai just shipped GLM-5.2 with a usable 1 million token context and dual thinking modes that drop straight into existing Claude-compatible tools. The release adds high and max effort thinking levels that trade extra compute for deeper reasoning on the same request. It lands through Anthropic-compatible endpoints, so existing users of Claude Code, Cline, and OpenClaw can swap it in without code changes. No benchmark numbers appeared at launch, and the team scheduled MIT-licensed open weights for the following week. This continues the open weight push we have tracked since last week, where families like Qwen and DeepSeek keep closing the gap on closed frontier systems while adding reasoning controls that were previously limited to proprietary offerings. Builders should watch how the two effort tiers affect cost and latency on long context coding tasks this week. Z.ai released GLM-5.2 across every GLM coding plan tier on June 13, 2026. The model introduces a usable 1 million token context window, plus high and max effort thinking levels. It integrates immediately through an Anthropic-compatible endpoint into Claude Code, Cline, and OpenClaw without code changes. No benchmarks were released at launch. MIT-licensed open weights are scheduled for the following week. Teams already using those tools can swap in GLM 5.2 today to test whether the extra context improves multi-file refactoring or long document analysis. A separate study on 29 tasks found pairwise LLM judge preferences flip 13.6% of the time on average. Some questions reach 56% flips across 50 repeated trials. GPT-4o Mini showed significant first position bias. The work recommends at least 11 trials for stable majority votes on most questions. CacheRL trains small agent models for multi-turn tool calling using cached rollouts and a hybrid reward that avoids live execution costs. It reached 92% process accuracy on multi-step tasks while using 100 times less compute than GPT-5. The system adds LLM-generated reasoning traces to trajectories and applies token-level masking over a 3-tier fuzzy cache. Removing knowledge transfer dropped performance 41%, while the cache-aware reward contributed a 17% gain. Dialog SWE Bench evaluates coding agents on real software engineering tasks through multi-turn dialogue with a persona-grounded user simulator. The benchmark adds automatic dialogue quality metrics alongside task resolution. A new schema-guided agent improved over strong baselines by 3 to 14% on dialogue capability. Results show stronger base coding models do not automatically produce better dialogue agents. Sana provides a diagnostic ablation framework that turns exploratory QA tasks over data lakes into runtime profiles with gold source sequences and execution records. It isolates failures in search, planning, data analysis, and action policy on Lake QA and Krama Bench. Data analysis emerged as the consistent bottleneck across both suites. Lightweight and mid-sized agents were tested under fixed prompts and budgets. PrintGuard 2.0 ships a 5 megabyte TF Lite model via LiteRT that runs unchanged on both CPython and Pyodide in the browser for few-shot FDM failure detection. A single Python engine handles inference scheduling with dynamic worker allocation based on observed latency, using max-min fairness across cameras. Platform-specific code is isolated to a contract covering camera discovery, capture, and inference, so the same files execute in hub and local modes. The defect pipeline triggers octoprint or moonraker actions after n consecutive frames exceed a tunable threshold. Swap GLM 5.2 into Claude Code or Cline on a long context refactoring task, and compare high versus max effort on the same prompt to measure latency versus quality trade-offs. Run the CacheRL training recipe on a 4 billion to 7 billion base model if you need a lightweight tool calling agent without live execution costs during RL. Add Dialog SWE Bench to your coding agent eval suite to measure dialog quality separately from task completion. Test PrintGuard 2.0's browser demo on a spare machine to see whether the Pyodide plus LightRT bridge meets your real-time monitoring latency needs. MIT open waits for GLM-5.2 are expected within the next week. Further independent evaluations of GLM-5.2 effort tiers on coding and long document tasks are also coming. Expanded use of multi-trial aggregation and position randomization in public leaderboards will follow the LLM as judge reliability findings. Okay, let's pop the hood on the LLM as a judge findings, because the variance numbers matter for anyone running evals. Everyone treats LLM as a judge as a reliable, low-cost replacement for human raters. In practice, it is a noisy measurement process whose variance depends on prompt phrasing, position, and temperature in ways that single trial scores hide. The core issue is that pairwise preference and pointwise scoring are only loosely coupled. Judges often declare a winner even when their own scalar scores show negligible difference. Temperature and prompt paraphrases shift majority outcomes in roughly a quarter of cases. First position bias can reach 72% for some models. Cross-judge agreement between two OpenAI models sits at 76% with moderate kappa. The practical fix is to run 11 to 15 repeated trials with randomized order and report both the majority vote and the flip rate. Anything less leaves high-stakes rankings vulnerable to sampling noise rather than true capability differences. So when should you actually reach for this versus the alternative? Run the multi-trial protocol whenever the ranking will drive model selection or paper claims. Tomorrow, keep an eye on the MIT Open Weights release for GLM 5.2 and the first independent comparisons of its effort tiers. That's Models and Agents for today. If you found this useful, share it with someone who's trying to keep up with all these changes, and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's update. The AI world moves fast. We'll help you keep up. See you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the Narrow Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Models and Agents for Beginners a listen. Artificial intelligence explained simply for beginners and curious teens. You can explore the whole lineup at narrownetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.